o'clock, let's keep rolling.
It's just crazy in terms of, the time commitment.
Do I get one?
Of course
Oh,
you do.
thank you.
Of course I would.
It's staff.
Hello, Ted.
Yeah, how we doing?
Great. Well, it's 6 o'clock, 6:01, we're gonna call a meeting to order. Looks like we're doing pretty well with attendees here today, so that's good.
Yes.
That would be good.
So we got a quorum, and
That always helps.
occasionally, especially when the people tell us they're gonna be here and they are here, that's great, thank you for all coming. Let's see here, we're gonna start with the approval of the minutes from the October 28th meeting. Any comments?
I've got a question for you. We didn't have a quorum last time.
You are correct.
Question is, should we have had a meeting if we don't have a quorum? And second of all, you really can't do minutes if you don't have a quorum, right?
Right.
I know she didn't put these down as minutes, you put these down as notes.
Right, non-meeting notes, in parentheses, lack of quorum.
There you go.
Okay.
We didn't know if, we had received an affirmative response from a fifth committee member,
Yeah, but he never showed.
but he never
right.
showed. But we didn't know when he would, he could have come
Okay,
in,
the general,
created a quorum.
the
We didn't
general
take any votes of
yeah, I
it.
know, the general question though is this, in the future, if we don't have a quorum, should we hold a meeting?
Well, we're assuming that Brandon will be late.
I know, I'm looking at hypothetical now.
Okay, so yeah, that's probably a good idea, that maybe we would just go ahead and cancel it and waste everyone's time
If-
here and just fill the evening. That's probably not what I would want to do.
If we knew in advance that we didn't have a quorum, that's one thing. But
Yeah,
if you think we're gonna all come here, make that effort, make the preparation for the meeting,
mhm.
and then 5 minutes into the meeting, because someone who said they were coming doesn't show up, we're gonna all march out of here, it ain't gonna happen. Why would we do that?
Well, aren't there rules, regulations on quorums and not having meetings?
That's
I'm
why
not claiming it's a meeting.
Yeah, that's probably why we call it not.
It-
I
it's
like
not
that. I
meeting.
read that, I saw that. That's
Okay,
what-
so then.
Do you have any concerns about anything that happened
No,
at
Oh,
the
so
meeting we
I'm just
didn't
asking,
have?
I'm just asking, in general, if we get to the point where we don't have a quorum, even if we're here and we know we don't have a quorum, okay, if we know we don't have a quorum, then we're not gonna have a meeting.
Right, like
That's
that
generally what you do,
afternoon, I
right?
had circled back with everybody and had gotten that fifth yes. So I'm like, okay, we're good. And the meeting went on, and unfortunately, that fifth one,
I'm sure he had a good reason, but, he led us to believe he would be here, and he didn't come.
Yeah. And then we're starting to have a little difficulty getting our quorums too. I mean, I know we've had
Well,
another meeting where
well,
we didn't have
I
one.
think we've covered that now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Okay, so, I guess we're gonna call the non-meeting notes, does anyone have?
I want to say for the record that the fact that a bunch of people sat here and spent time trying to advance the economic development interests of the town of Newington and talked with each other, and then put it all down in writing and videotaped it so anybody could see what we were doing, is a good thing.
The other
And
part-
I don't really appreciate questions like this that are designed to try to figure out how this committee can stop meeting.
No, I'm not,
Well,
Well, that's the way it seems.
that's the way it seems,
well, I'm
okay?
sorry if it seems that way, but the other part is this, if people who didn't come to the meeting or people who came to the meeting can't vote on anything, then it's kind of a waste for the people coming to the meeting.
We're only an advisory board, we hardly ever vote on anything.
We have no
We
power.
vote on approving the minutes, what else have we voted on? Tonight, we're gonna vote on the budget, we postponed the budget last time.
Mm-hmm.
We were here to talk about the business appreciation of it. You don't know anything about it, you weren't there, but there was a lot of effort that went into that, and there were a lot of people we wanted to thank. I'm
I'm sorry
sorry,
if you're taking it personally, I'm not, I'm
No,
just,
you just,
we
I don't
had-
think it's personally aimed at me, I agree with that, but it's aimed at whether or not this committee is gonna be an effective committee for the town of Newington. And if we can't be, we might as well all quit.
Let me ask another question then. How many people do we have on the committee? And we seem to be having a little trouble getting very close to the quorum. And I'm wondering, maybe we should expand it or talk to people who don't come to the meetings or whatever.
Brandon says he's gonna be here all the time, and then he doesn't show up, or he
We-
quits
we
the
should-
whole,
We should
Wait
talk
for a
about
year.
that.
I don't know what to do. I mean, if he says he's coming,
Mhm.
and then he doesn't, yes, Judy.
So, I'm on a board for a condo association. And we don't have a quorum, we meet anyway.
Mhm.
And the only difference is you can't vote really on anything, because you don't have enough people. to
Right.
cast a vote.
Right.
So basically, you still meet, and whoever shows up, that meeting is important, either way. You just can't vote on it. And mostly it's needed, it's the minutes or some things that can be pushed. So I think, to answer your question, we should meet no matter what.
Okay.
We just can't vote because of no.
I understand that.
Okay. So I think it's important that we all meet.
Mhm.
I just want to say, I understand completely where your question is coming from, Bob. And I have, I was thinking the same way as you. Just, is it productive for all of us to be here? I didn't understand the, I thank you for clarifying that you do everything except vote in a meeting if you don't have a quorum. And I think that's all I would say. Is a quorum a certain percentage of the people on the committee?
Yeah.
So the smaller the number of people, the smaller the quorum. Right,
We
that's
have
what
8, so you need 5.
you need 5. So if somebody says that they can't attend a meeting regularly, go down to 7, will that change the quorum? So, it's a fluid thing, but I understand completely where you're coming from.
Thank you.
As far as getting new members, we welcome new members,
That's how we got Judy.
we love
Now
new
you're stuck.
members.
You threw a good party.
I mean, everybody's just a volunteer.
I thought I'd get off to kind of a rousing start.
Yeah, you sure did there, Bob. Thanks, pal. Okay, so our non-meeting notes that were not quorum quantified, would be approved, or does anyone? Ted, do you have any comments on the quorum or anything, or no?
I think anytime we all get together and talk, exchange ideas is very helpful.
There we go. Thank you. Anyone second that? We got a vote on that. We've got Ted put forth and Judy seconded, so. Approved.
I-
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll go to old business now. Budget update and 2022 submission from Mark Roy. Please bring us up to speed, Martha, if you will.
Yes, sir. Okay, as you can see from this packet, your budget is in fine shape. You have 35% left in your budget lines through today. And there, of course, will be further expenditures in the wages line. And that brings me to one of my first points of the evening. As you may have heard in the media, Karen Anderson has accepted a position with Hampton Falls as their town administrator.
I mean, it's sad too. Congratulations.
And we're very fortunate to have Paul Duchesne, who also works for the town, willing to step into Karen's shoes at her urging. So.
We'll see where that can come.
Paul's also a former town administrator and has better skills than I do.
The
The
plan-
jury's out.
The plan would be, with the committee's approval, that many of the things that Karen was doing will fall to Paul, but some, for example, website updating and minute taking will fall to administrative staff in the selectman's office. Much of which they've been doing already, but some that Karen has done as well. So if that is acceptable, move on to the 2022 budget, or if you have any questions about it.
I'd just like to, and I know Karen's going to be with us a while longer with the transition of Paul, so, hopefully we'll have more formal recognition at your last meeting, so you remember us fondly, but I'd just like to, express our appreciation for everything you've done. You've done it well in the midst of having a very serious injury. You didn't miss a beat. You always had a very high level of enthusiasm for this. And good humor as well. So I just would like to say that, I'm sure there's nobody on the committee that disagrees with me on that. And you more than earned that recognition. And I will tell you, I've known Paul for a long time. I've argued with Paul more than I've argued with Claude. I've argued with Paul more than I've argued with you, but you're working on it. We're gonna get there, yeah.
But he was getting billable hours when he was arguing with me.
They paid me to argue with him, but I've seen Paul in a lot of different settings, and I think we're very fortunate that Karen and Martha recruited him to come along and work with us. Keep going ahead.
Welcome.
Thank you. Still, working my way around town, getting it oriented, 30 years in Stratham, makes you very centric to Stratham, but certainly, know a lot about the Seacoast communities and look forward to this.
Yeah, just go up and down Shattuck Way and poke around. You find a lot of valuation.
Okay, so moving on to the 2022 Economic Development Committee budget. You have, last year, you were approved for $14,644. This year, your proposed budget is $14,610. The selectmen have asked if there are any possible delays or cuts that the committees and boards could make. They're asking all departments, because we're currently $400,000 over last year's budget on department requests.
It's unfortunate that Brandon isn't here tonight, because I think he'd be able to give us some insight on the budget committee's thinking about this. I know, he last year when we took a $5,000 cut, he was instrumental in at least preserving the ability for us to move it within line items anyway. I'd like to be responsive to the situation the town confronts, but I don't want to do that if it's going to result in this committee's budget going down and then going down again when we go to the budget committee. The last 2 years, that's, now, it was focused on, particular use of a particular employee, and maybe that's gonna go away, I don't know, but you only have 15, 20 minutes, we had 10 the first time, but we're working our way up to 20, based on Ken's suggestion at the last meeting, that we, work on something like that. But the way there's two factions in this town, and the way the budget committee acted in the past, I just don't know. So, I mean, I'm just being straightforward here. I think what we do, and I know we're gonna be questioned about how is it measured and how does this compare with this and that, but I think what we're doing is something that had been horribly neglected in terms of recognizing our business community in this town that pays upwards of 70% of the taxes. And we're working on that, and we're working to try to, keep it that way so that remains the case. And in this kind of setting where we're sitting on a carbon balloon that's, deflating, and the selectmen have done a terrific job. I mean, it's so encouraging to see the results of the work they did with the EP Newington lawsuit, and the effect on the tax rate. It got set earlier in the month. We want to be responsive to that. So, and I know the selectmen can't guarantee what the budget committee is going to do if they could.
Well, that's it. But honestly, each year you're taking a hit, and you're down to the bare bones. And we're 14,000 out of an $8 million budget. I mean, let's be honest, what we've given, this committee is given back to the town through their hours and sacrifices and their thoughts. I wouldn't see any big cuts here, you shouldn't even think about any cuts.
We're down $35 from last
I
year.
know, we've saved already.
I know. We're okay.
Good job, Jeff.
Hey, that's what I'm all about. So will we,
One question I can see them asking is why we have $3,000 in the budget for dues and memberships, and we haven't spent apparently anything on it.
So, just to refresh everybody on that, last year, at about this time, we were about to join the consortium with all the cities that have in southeast New Hampshire that have economic development directors, have a consortium along with PE's administration, and they have a regular, apparently some sort of regular meeting, and they make, Nancy Carmer came in and explained this to the committee. I wasn't here for that meeting, so I'm not gonna attempt to regurgitate what she said, but she's the economic development director for the city of Portsmouth. She appeared here, and that was where the genesis of the idea of joining in that effort. And they ran an ad in Business New Hampshire, which cost something, and so their request, or the membership fee supposedly was $2,500. That's how that got in the budget. And we were going to spend it last December, but Brandon cautioned us on that, but that the budget committee wouldn't look favorably on us expending money. That would have then come out of the 2019 budget. That we should wait and get more information and talk about it. And then we got COVID hit. A lot of things happened. COVID hit. We got a $5,000 budget cut, and I think more importantly, we got Darren Lanham in here, who is the economic development coordinator for the town of Exeter, which is not a member of the consortium, and he told us about this alternate thing that was going on with the meetings that Karen's been going to, and which some of those cities participate in, I don't think they all do, but some of them do. And we pursued that as an alternative, so if I would, with that as a background, you know, we could decide, you know, not to spend their money this year, not to join that group. I mean, we could easily decide that. I think it really depends on whether the group we got into is really driven by COVID, and then the waters are gonna recede, and there's not gonna be all this cooperation and sharing within that group, or whether we learn, you know, more about the city's group, and really whether we get those referrals. It's, the whole thing with the city group was, you know, if we can't put them at P's, we're gonna call you up, you know, and put it with you. So, it's a very good question, Joe. And, I don't know, I hope this information helps people consider it.
Martha, do we actually have the 2020 year-end numbers?
2020, sure, I can get them, I don't have them with me, but, you mean what we've spent for 2020?
Yeah, so, because it's kind of, I know when I'm doing budgets now, comparing stuff against 2020, 2021 versus 2020 is inherently skewed because of COVID. It's just, sometimes it's easier to go all the way back maybe to 2022 because, you know, everybody ramped back during last year. And so it's hard to make the comparison about 2021 to the COVID
I
year.
think they show in that 2020 column,
Yeah,
where it says
exactly.
as of 3/10/21, that
Yeah.
shouldn't be there.
Actually, it should, because that's the date that
Right, 'cause we
you know
don't-
how the AP runs for an extra
So you
couple
don't wanna
months?
show it.
Okay.
That's
The
the,
minimus
But
round.
that
it's
includes
2020.
20 expenses, okay.
So is it
the red column.
so this really should be the year-end 2020 numbers?
Yes.
They
So
are,
you're saying we spent 12,132 in 2020?
right.
Yeah,
Right.
that, and again, that's because we held off spending $2,500 to $2,800 on that membership. We were gonna do it, and, you know, I took it as good advice from Brandon, that, you know, wasn't gonna, running around spending money in your budget in December, you know, it can make it look like you're just, you know, looking for ways to get rid of money, and that's the last thing we want anybody to believe. You know, we do.
So it looks like a stabilized budget for the committee, even if it's, you know, less than a 0.5% of an $8 million budget, is really around 14,000. It's, you know, comparing anything against 2021 is difficult because everybody ramped back services. So I think, you know, that presentation of, you know, to make a further cutback is really kind of decreasing the scope of the committee. And I don't think that's necessarily what everybody's here for.
When is the budget committee meeting going to be?
Right here.
It's,
December first.
Did you say when?
December 1st, it's on the agenda here. at the
Oh,
bottom.
okay.
December 1st, 6:55 p.m. We'd,
Yep, that's it, sorry.
no, it's
That's
fine,
fine.
it's fine, we were gonna talk about encouraging people to come. I don't, you know, our advocacy has produced some mixed results, I guess I'd say, in terms of going in. And I don't wanna be fair to the budget committee, you know, it's a difficult job. They're volunteers just like we are. And, you know, they ask some questions. Some of it seemed very aimed at the fact that Jerry Coogan was working with us. So, you know, that's been resolved. We, you know, went in a different direction, and all turned out good all around. that was a repetitive theme over both of the years we went. So I'd like to think nothing would be better than we just went and it became a little more perfunctory, or that the effort that particularly Jeff has put in writing all this up, doing, which anybody has any thoughts on that or things to add or improvements to it, just let us know soon, because we gotta get it to the budget committee before this meeting, or it's a waste of time as far as, convincing them of anything. But I'd encourage folks to come to the meeting and at least see it and have them see you, that, it's not just, the Jeff and Mike show. Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
So let's move on to who did all the work at the business appreciation event. You missed the accolades that we were passing out at the last meeting, as did you, and as did Jill, who stepped up that night of the meeting and kept everything moving, organized, flowing, took some good pictures. And so we do want to thank you for that, okay? That was, even in absentia, you were acknowledged at the last meeting. And I remember the chairman noted the work that had been done, so thanks. So no, it's not, fortunately, it's not just our shovel. Nothing would happen. It'd be a lot of talk. Action from him, maybe.
Just so I'm clear, are we making any suggestions on the budget? How are we doing? Okay, so we're gonna present it as we've got it sitting here right now. Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll handle that membership thing by saying that you really, it's entirely possible that with things really getting, if things get back, that relationship could be pivotal in getting the next big company either new. That's a big part of the game, what we're doing.
Okay, so moving on to the discussion on the tax incentive program. We talked about this before. Does anyone have anything that they want to add to that conversation about it being because as was pointed out to me last time, it wasn't just to mention it here, but just to continue the discussion. Just a quick refresher, the tax incentive is not to reduce current taxes on anything. It is to incentivize development, and there could be a tax incentive for future development and future investment in the town. So this would not take away current tax revenue. It would simply potentially, if put before the voters in an upcoming town meeting, I believe it's in March, this would potentially allow the town to implement a program that would give an incentive for new development, new construction, new innovation in town, and that's what the discussion is about, and how to possibly put that forth. And Ted seems to have a question.
Yeah, I just want to say that with the budgets going on and working with the EP, and everything like that, I didn't have a lot of time to work on it. I would like to, as I said, I think the last meeting, I'd like to set something, a general meeting, and get some people involved so people will understand it better. And probably be right after the first of the year. We get through December with the budget, and the budget committee, and we'll be working on it to set it up in January.
I think that we didn't take any votes on it, we couldn't anyway. We usually don't, it's not our practice anyway. But I think that idea of a forum that you expressed at the last meeting, and it was somebody who was on work with it, I don't
we'll plan on doing that in January.
Yes, I would think that was better, with everything that's going on right now, but
And
How many people
To-
do you see coming on that? Is it just any, like, I don't know.
we'll get together.
I'll think about it. So is this just anyone from town that
Yes,
you want?
yeah, and if we
or-
have anybody that's from outside that could contribute to this, more knowledge would be beneficial, you know.
yeah, I
So
mentioned
maybe-
Darren Wyndham,
Should it be
Yeah.
in the?
because they have that, Exeter has adopted this.
Right,
So should it be in the December newsletter that goes out to everybody, that says that we're looking for committee
Yeah.
people to, you know,
It's a good idea.
Suggestion.
if anyone's
Suggestion.
interested, and it's out there in December if they're thinking about it, and we're
Great.
starting in January.
yeah, good idea, thank you.
Because, I mean, ultimately, it's gonna be passed by the voters, so
Yeah,
to not, you know, any time spent as a run-up to it in educating the public about what it is, I mean, it's fairly complicated, I mean, as it is, so, can't hurt, likely will be very helpful.
yeah, we'll get it going. Right, Martha?
Great. Well, we have a pretty quick turnaround for the December newsletter, at least for the town newsletter. If we're talking the business newsletter, that
No,
could be
I
a
mean,
little
the
more
business
flexible.
people can't vote.
No,
Okay.
it should
Right.
be in the town,
The towns.
Little
And they'll all vote for something that'll, has any chance of reducing their taxes, even though they got a great deal.
Okay, so, that should go in the town-wide. Okay. We're gonna go to the business appreciation update from Karen, please.
Which is the newsletter, it's the final version which has gone out, is in your packets. It's not a big difference from when you saw the draft from last month, but what we did is added in all the names of the different businesses that attended, or were spoken to about the event, as well as adding in who received the awards and the donations, towards the baskets and who won the baskets.
Great job.
And I have gotten 2 or 3 more emails of people asking to be added to the list to receive it, so. Word continues to spread around it.
So did that, People in Partners Basket, was that shared, is it the organization?
No, absconded.
I had that feeling.
Yeah.
That doesn't-
Retail sector update,
Me?
Miss Alicia.
Hi. So, well, speaking about Grumbo, they're hoping to open on December 17th. It's a little bit, they're hoping to open on the 17th, so that's what they're aiming for. There's a lot of parts and pieces, equipment that still needs to come in, we all know the supply chain, but, that is hot, so we're starting to get ready for them. They report something like 500 to 1,000 people will show up at their grand opening. It's kind of like a Trader Joe's opening, so they come from a lot of different distance for their opening. So we're all really excited, but, and, you know, that they're gonna be opening the doors. Worst case scenario, they'll open in January, after the holidays. Adjacent to us, I don't know if you, are aware that Buffalo Wild Wings closed their door.
I saw the auction,
Yeah,
I was gonna go over, they had an open, that you can go and view the memorabilia.
yeah,
And go on, you know, beer glasses and stoves, everything else, and then selling to the beer walls.
yeah. So, you know, it's, you know, to the point of, you know, kind of keeping the pulse of what's happening, and a little bit is competitive. They were on they, you know, they were known to be looking for spaces, and so it was not surprising that they went across the way. least they're staying in New Hampshire, but, you know, that's how competitive some of these new developments are, is that they're able to attract and bring tenants back and forth. So,
Where are they going?
Uh,
Across the way.
the,
It's like they-
I always,
It's
it's
in
the,
heaven? Or,
yeah, it's, West End Yards, is that
Oh,
the
okay,
name?
oh, yeah, that's
Well,
perfect.
that's one,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, that's Torrington, you know, so they didn't wanna wait for Torrington to put them in, Newington Office Park, they wanted out even faster.
yep.
Right.
So, you know, so that's kind of the, you know, you're seeing the trend of the retailers, right? Of like where they think the strongest zip code is, you know, obviously we know what's happening in the mall scenario. Now whether they're backfilled or not, I don't know, but definitely a space like that will hurt a little bit, you know, especially since that was an attraction to the mall.
What I did see though at the mall, or I read about, is where Gloria Jean's Coffee Bean is now becoming Pink Hippo Cafe, and they're bringing in donuts from Wisconsin's bakery,
Oh, it's in
donuts from there.
Wells, it's in
Yeah.
Wells.
And it's like a destination donut, so they're gonna be selling those at the mall.
So then we found a little like, boutique for smaller services, is where their leasing is going, right, to help. So that's why you're seeing a lot of different smaller restaurants or smaller, different local people,
Yeah, cause they don't have like the traffic costs to justify the national chains.
Yep, and the fact that they can take spaces that are relatively small and convert them faster. So, you know, that's a little bit of the trend, but also a little bit of what's happening out there. You know, we have the box, the old kitchen and company box. So what you're seeing at the crossings is potentially how long it takes to get a large space to be released. And, you know, thank goodness at crossings, we just have one. So if you can imagine if you have multiple of those, how long it takes just to get it done, get the deal done. Right now, with the cost of construction and making sure everything makes sense. So that may give you that indication of it could take 12 to 18 months to fill a large box. So if you have a lot of them, you can just kind of multiply that time factor. And the larger the boxes are, the longer it takes. So, but the moral of the story is you can see that the zip codes between Bloomington and Portsmouth are becoming very competitive back and forth. So a little bit to harken back to how important committees like this is on both sides, because you have economic development committees in both zip codes vying for these tenants. And this tenant pool is only X big.
Well, it's even harder, we are the same zip code.
Yeah.
And-
Well,
And
Yeah.
as you pointed out,
Yeah.
some people come here and they claim that they're in Portsmouth.
Yes, they do. I see this too, but that's,
We appreciate that.
yes, but that's just so you can kind of see what's happening. I think Buffalo Wild Wing kind of shows you what actually is happening to these national retailers and trying to attract them to different spots if they have people have goals.
Well, it's driven by the donor. Go ahead, Mark.
Question, what kind of leases, terms on the leases are they kind of offering for these spaces? Are they looking for 5 years or 2 years, or generally speaking?
So it depends upon the product type, you know, for a smaller tenant, they do a shorter term. Or they may do a shorter term, what they like to label as a non-credit. You know, so you're neither party's taking a long risk. For very expensive deals, for national credit, then you'll see the 10-year terms, you'll see the 15-year terms. You don't necessarily see longer than that unless someone's leasing the ground. So those are kind of those buckets. But it's definitely, you know, good and bad. Smaller spaces are easy for shorter term, but it's a lot more work because all those tenants start to roll. So trying, and then making sure that they stay. you're gonna have to redo those spaces over and over and over again, so. But that's the dance right now, but the real dance, as you've heard from different consultants, is the cost of construction. It just has to make sense. And we all know the cost of just construction is just, it's a lot for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Right, that's business too.
So thank you for that, Alicia.
No,
That's great.
it's just-
Great. So, Bob Raymond, do you have any update on Taylor Caswell?
Well, the usual very thin agenda. Let's see here, they keep talking about the Planning and Development Committee integrating with BEA. Yeah, that's ongoing all the time. And at the last meeting, we discussed the workforce challenges, and Commissioner Caswell provided some statistics regarding net migration between 15 and 19, noting of the top 10 counties in New England that had positive net migration, 5 were in New Hampshire. And they talked about, resignation and not being able to get people and how many houses, so we just go over it's the same thing, we go over, month after month. And nobody, everybody wrings their hands over the housing thing, but, we haven't come up with anything that says how it's gonna change. But there's a lot more, apparently, a lot more activity at the state level now to do something about housing, so kinda have to watch that. That's really about it.
Okay, thank you. Karen Anderson and Mark Roy, update on the Seacoast Economic Development Roundtable, please.
Wasn't able to attend the one yesterday, but one of the last ones was really interesting, that they really talked about what towns and what economic development communities can get out of, like, the Rockingham Economic Development Corporation, that economic development districts is what, and the committee is starting to kind of talk about this Seacoast group becoming an economic development district, which will open them up for more grant opportunities, and strengthen numbers, basically.
And what would the grant opportunities that we get, what would that do? I mean, would that be Newington
Things like
specific?
the Build Back Better grant that they've already applied for.
All that, okay.
Yeah, and there's more opportunities like that, infrastructure things that as a group they think they can, because the Seacoast is tied together so much, so if they can get something to increase transportation, it will help the whole group. And that's kind of the focus. Each of these towns trying to increase housing or increase job retention individually isn't working. And so trying to partner with a town that may not have enough development, commercial, but can support the housing for a neighboring town. And getting like a business owner, like one idea was put out, a business owner, say a Sprague or something, that's looking to do it, and I'm just throwing out a big enough business like a Wilcox. Doing an expansion, but working with, say, Northampton for some housing, knowing that there isn't enough area to build something in Newington that would support their staffing needs, but trying to partner with developers in other towns and reserving a certain percentage for their employees. They would put so much money into the funding of housing. And just trying to get more partnerships throughout the Seacoast,
Sure.
that individually everyone has the same problem.
If I may, just, both in terms of adding to that and full disclosure, I was an original incorporator of the ROTC, almost 30 years now. I'm no longer serving on the board, but I was, until I retired from that about a year and a half ago, I'm the longest serving board member on there, and had various
Rockingham Economic Development Corporation.
right, RDC, also now known as the Regional Economic Development Council of Southern New Hampshire. because their focus and range, grew from just Rockingham County to, lower tier, of southern New Hampshire, so, Rockingham didn't fit in anymore. So, I'm very well versed in what they do and what they've done and what the possibilities are. But I also want to put out there, if there's a parallel organization, I was once part of that other organization with the very same goals. When the five of us were incorporators, we worked on a particular project. It wasn't called SEDS at the time, but it was a regional economic development plan. And after working on that, the five of us said, this all worked out so well, why didn't we join together and try to do a regional approach rather than each individual town trying to recreate the wheel over and over and over again and fight each other for the scarce resources. So I just bring that to the table and fully dispose that.
So, I just want to be clear on, I'm very clear on the disclosure, but are you saying that if we had an opportunity to be one of the member communities that would be in a so-called seacoast economic development, you wouldn't feel comfortable working with that? Is that what
No, I
you're
just
saying?
wanted to make sure people understood that I had a previous relationship with what might be viewed as a competing organization in the region. I'm no longer associated with that organization, and although being a founder, I have a little sympathy for it. But if it's not meeting your needs and your goals, then pursuing that alternative is certainly then.
Oh,
Right. And I don't think they're talking about it even as an alternative, but as more of a partnership that doing different things, instead of all these individual economic development committees becoming a district.
Well, an example of, Paul could probably give you millions of examples. The one I'm pretty knowledgeable about is like when Smutty Nose, got jerked around in Portsmouth and started looking at Hampton, and they needed some mezzanine money. They needed grant to send the sewer and water up there. I know the REDC was very helpful to the town of Hampton in making that happen.
Their niche that they've developed over the years has been gap financing, because of their EPA grants, so they now have a portfolio where they can provide that type of assistance. If you ask my opinion, recreating that probably is not in your best interest, because it takes a long time and a lot of luck. But knowing that they have that and then bringing a client to that resource is probably, where I would suggest.
Well, yeah, I think your experience could be of help to us as we navigate through the acronyms and try to figure out, what would really benefit Newington. Or best benefit Newington.
Thank you for that. That's good to know. I know, Matt Krebs's gonna be giving us commercial development updates in town here. Did we get anything on that?
Not yet, no.
So no commercial development update?
No, he's on vacation until December 2nd, but I'll ask him for one.
I can fill the,
Oh, and thanks, guys.
No, I just wanted to bring up, Stoneface went before the zoning board. Monday night was it, Bob? Last Monday night?
Right.
Yeah, and they had 10 waivers they needed, and they got all 10, so they're through the zoning board, so they're back to the planning board now to proceed, so it was.
just out of curiosity, and I could read the minutes of the planning book, and I will when they come out, but, what were the nature of the, variances that they needed? I mean, were they serious, or were they
No,
minor
all of the setbacks,
deviations?
The set, like all of Shattuck Way, a lot of those businesses are close to the road, and they still have the old setbacks. There was some signage issues, the size of the sign, the height of the sign, the height of the building. There were, nothing that was a killer, I didn't think it did. Did you, Mark?
No.
Mark was there, that's why, but,
Mark Phillips. I'm the landowner at the moment, so.
You're the innovator that had the vision to see that
Well,
land.
I got a lot, you get lucky once in a while, right?
Yeah, you're an awardee, you have to act like it, come on.
But you have to understand that when Shattuck Way was, conceived, it was called the Industrial Parkway or something, Industrial Drive. And so we've got the biggest buildings in southeastern New Hampshire over there with, Westinghouse and Newington Power and these enormous buildings that are 100 feet tall with their smokestacks and so on. So the typical front setback is 70 feet. Well, that may be good for a scale of a massive building, but it doesn't work for a 1 or 2 story small guy that wants to just come along and so they have to think in terms of, what's today. And the planning board is, based on tradition. Well, gee, we never did this before, so, well, you have to get with it, guys, because, planning is a fluid, dynamic thing. It's not static. It's not what it was in 1960. And I was on the planning board until they kicked me off because I was trying to educate them that we've got to respect the laws today, i.e. affordable housing, which they just swept under the rug for years and years and years, and tried to explain to them that, if this was Massachusetts, Section 40B, a developer comes in, and if you don't have any land zoned for multifamily, he can say, oh, I'm gonna buy this land, I'm gonna put it up, and you can't stop them. You cannot stop them. And we would lose in a lawsuit if that happens. So I'm trying to convince the planning board, we've gotta rezone this town. I'm getting on my soapbox here, so. But we have to address that. And I would think one of the primary things of this body would be to consider alternatives for the Fox Run Mall, for example. That's.
You don't say.
Excuse me? Well, I was with Louis de Rochemont when he came to me. This is 1972 or 3. And he said, Mark, he says, I've been approached by these guys that want to buy my land across the street. What do you think I can get for it? And I said, I was just a pup right out of college, but I had a love of real estate. And I said, well, Louis, let's find out what the highest price ever paid for an acre in New England was. And that was $10,000 for a New England telephone building.
Yes.
And I said, you got 77 acres, 770,000 sounds like a good number to me. And that's what he sold it for, to Steve Karp, and it became the Fox Run Mall. And so, well, that was 2 generations ago, And the unique thing about that mall is, I don't know if everybody knows this, but it's unlike many malls. The typical mall, one person owns all the land.
Expand the committee.
Well, in this case, the major anchors, i.e. Sears, JCPenney, and Macy's, own their own dirt. So the only thing the mall consists of is a corridor from one anchor to another, which is worthless, has no value as a retail thing for anybody to buy because it's based on the quality and the success of the anchor tenants. Now, if the anchors are no longer there, you're hanging out to dry. So we're very fortunate that, the Macy's is still there and JCPenney is still there, but Sears is closed up. And they're owned by Seritage Corporation, which, this is kind of funny. Seritage Corporation was founded maybe 10 years ago by the smartest guys in the business in REITs for shopping centers. And they got together and said, geez, we should specialize in just the blue chip companies. Yep, like Sears, blah, blah, blah. So they built they own 200 malls in the United States. And they're all suck and win. They're all upside down because they were anchored by people like Sears, which was unheard of 20 years ago. They'll never fail, but of course they did. So there's an opportunity there for somebody, that particular Sears is 13 acres with 130,000 square feet, for example. But I think the housing is gonna be addressed in some shape or form, and the planning board is just refusing to deal with it, in my opinion. So somebody's got to, because, you know, we've gotta provide our fair share of housing, in this region, and we're not. The multifamily housing is not even addressed, it's not even in the glossary of the zoning ordinance. It's unbelievable, you know?
We do. We went to the same presentation when the study was rolled out. And then we never supported it, asked questions, participated in the discussion, and it's been DOA since.
Well, we had an excuse until about 2 years ago. We had multifamily housing in Newington. Now, does anybody know where it was?
They used to count the.
No, that was
Trailer park.
That was 1990, that's ancient history.
Oh, yeah.
Up until
Yeah,
2 years.
Well, then they started counting the developmentally disabled facility at the corner
Right,
of where Northeast Credit Union hopefully will go.
right. So there were 14 apartments next to Seta Chevrolet, you know, on Woodbury Avenue. And we fulfilled the requirement by having multifamily in the town. Up until that time, today, we are in violation of state law. State law just, you know, doesn't say you can make every single-family house with an ADU becomes a duplex. That's not good enough. We have to have multifamily, which says at least 6 apartments in one building. We do not have that. So I'm a developer, you know, I love this town. I'm not gonna be the guy to do it, but somebody could come in like me and take the, you know, the 7 acres I got on Chautauqua and say, okay, guys, there's gonna be 200 apartments here next week, and I can afford to hire a better attorney than you can. And so I'm gonna win. And that's the bottom line. That's the tragic reality of the situation. We have to address that. There has to be at least a discussion, an open discussion, and that's all I'm trying to get. It's just people should come together and, you know, discuss this, because maybe, you know, 24 units is a fair share for Newington. Doesn't have to be 300 or something, but something has to start the discussion to solve this potential problem. You try to find a plumber, right? No, because where are they? They're living up in Ossipee. They can't afford to live down here, you know? The trades aren't, you know, teaching any kids how to make a living with their hands. I mean, I've been doing this for 50 years, and everybody my age is either retired or dead, you know? 3 years ago, the average age of a tradesman in New Hampshire was 57 years old. I'm 72, you know? I've got to go and you know, train my own people just how to swap out a sink. It's crazy. It's just ridiculous. And so, with the purchase of the excuse me?
About those variances, they weren't that serious.
No. So I digress. I'm sorry, but
No.
but I think
It's wonderful to have public participation.
Thank you for coming. That's great.
Thank you. So, you know, I was fortunate enough to buy 14.5 acres from Eversource on Chautauqua and River Road. And today we've put $10 million worth of, you know, investment in that. And the stone phase will.
Tell the budget committee, will you?
Excuse me?
Tell the budget committee.
Oh, well, but I consider it my job to extract every dollar I can from the limited commercial land we have in Newington to its highest and best productive use. And that's what I'm doing. So I've got stone phase coming on. I've got a machine shop that wants to be on the land right next to the Disabled American Vets. I've got a little small piece of land that's adjacent to the old ramp. It's actually owned by the town, and we're working with Ted to try to make that happen maybe. So, you know, there's there's opportunities out there.
Thank you for your commitment to New England.
Well, thank you.
Making it better. Thank you.
The, on the commercial development side, I went to the last Cyborg meeting last Friday, and they've pretty much come, this is the commercial and industrial brokers, they pretty much, come back to life, with live meetings coming out of COVID, similar to us. And, there was a lot of, interest in Newington, both people looking for Newington properties as well as people, interested in, what Newington was gonna do, particularly about this housing issue. That was, Choke Chairs, David Choke Chairs did it. He's been very involved for a long time in, advancing workforce housing in the Seacoast. He doesn't hesitate. He sees an opportunity to be able to discuss the issues. So, that came up, and I told him about the study, and that at this point the town wasn't moving forward based on that study, because they tied it particularly to the mall. What's happening there. He tried to say the mall was dead. And I reminded him, it seemed pretty much alive when he was here at Carson Coffee, at the event we had, enjoying the festivities. So, he gave us a chance to, once again, as Jeff says, plant the Newington flag and get it out there, go around. I talk, limited time I had, I used to talk about the business appreciation of it, and to indicate, the positive feedback we had gotten, and also really the breadth of businesses that we have in the community. Newington really is the business center of the Seacoast. We've got a lot, we've just got a broad spectrum of businesses, and, that seems to be well received. And I think, going forward, whether, I'm not sure we should put all our eggs in, we're gonna have $4,000, hopefully we'll have $4,000 in the event budget. I'm not sure we should be thinking about having another big event for them, per se. They have like this meeting, you can sponsor, you buy the breakfast. And,
They're about 7
yeah, right, you looked into it. So, after the first of the year, after we don't really know what our budget is, maybe we can talk about something like that rather than, the big expenditure. And on the business appreciation side, I hope we can get to where, we had people express interest in seeing further events, but maybe, hopefully we can get people to work with us as partners in having those events, and that would, we would have used the approaching $4,000 we spent for this year's event, to recognize businesses that hadn't ever been recognized. But we could spread out the money more and use it to, just encourage, a positive feeling about the business movement, because I think people are ready to believe.
Build it and they will.
Well, her comment about, when Alicia says, Buffalo Wild Wings went, to the other zip code, or, fire by zip code. A big part of what's driving that has got to be the demographics.
The residential.
Yeah. Exactly. And, at the age of the people that they attract for those units in the West End Yards, that's the massive built-in, Buffalo Wild Wings will become the clubhouse.
Yeah.
like that were in the study that the town commissioned by, you know, the planning consultants that the planning board picked. And, you know, it's sort of a lesson validating the study, so get with that. It's not a lesson I wish we didn't have. I'd like to have kept Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm sure as the red roll goes down, you're gonna see them all seeking to reduce their, you know, their valuation. That's our focus, is to look at ways to leverage that. I mean, and Mark explained it well in terms of the anchor tenants. The fact that the anchor tenants own so much land, albeit parking at this point, but I mean, if all of that area were filled with vertical parking associated, you know, whatever vertical parking is needed to serve some vertical buildings, the tax benefit from the town would be enormous, just enormous.
E-news article?
I'll get something in by, I know it's a short turnaround, the end of December 1st, but I'll get something written on the dredging, because I didn't go down to the waterfront today, but any day now, if they're not there already, there are gonna be two massive dredges in the Piscataqua, basically opposite, Sprague and, C3, taking out an enormous number of cubic yards of sand and rock, and widening that turning basin. It's a $25 million project supervised by the Army Corps, funded in part by the state of New Hampshire, and more largely funded by the federal appropriation for waterway improvement. And it's something that, you know, we've been chasing for Newington since 1986, and it has a direct impact on Subcom, Sprague, the gypsum, Georgia Pacific, the gypsum company, C3, and it allows quicker turnaround, safer turnaround. It's to create the area that ships turn in after they deliver cargoes, or in some instances, pick up cargoes in the river and they head back out to sea. So there's four, besides the dredges, there's four scows, or, you know, they look like barges, that are going to be employed, two working with each dredge, sending the material either to the offshore, the federally approved offshore disposal site north of the Isle of Shoals, or with the sand, and apparently there's a lot of sand and there's a lot of clean sand. The sand is going down to Salisbury and Plum Island to be used for beach replenishment. So they believe that they can get it done within it's a limited dredging window because of the environmental concerns. So they've got to get it done. I think they got to be done by March or April.
Thank you for that update. With that said, any new business that anyone wants to put out?
Just the next meetings,
Next meeting is
December 1st. If anyone wants to attend the budget committee meeting, we'd love to have them.
it's going to be a great time.
And the last,
Hard hats
Thursday,
will be
normally
issued.
would be a meeting is Christmas.
Yeah, so our next, after that, the next meeting is January 22nd. So, and that's here on this sheet. And this is, we did have enough for a quorum, this is an official thing.
Pretty much did the same thing we did the last time. Did we take a vote on anything except accepting the minutes? We didn't.
Okay, with that, do I hear any motions for adjournment?
I say we go home.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And happy holidays to all.
I went there.
Did you make, did you
Yeah,
make
yeah, I did them on the, I did it on the grill. I got a Weber.
Yeah.
It's like a connection.
Yeah.
You can do it in the grill.
I
Yeah. you-
On that one, of course,
Yeah, one.
No, that's cool.
Nice history lesson.